Okay, let's unpack this. We all carry a younger version of ourselves inside, right? A version shaped by, well, everything we experience as kids. Good stuff, bad stuff.
Yeah, all of it.
Sometimes that inner self, it's full of joy and wonder, but often it's holding on to old hurts.
Right. And those hurts silently influence our adult lives in some really profound ways.
So today, our deep dive is a journey into maybe the most surprising part of ourselves, this hidden inner child.
Yeah, we're going to uncover its influence, understand its wounds.
And then map out a path to heal, really transform not just the past, but maybe your whole future.
What's fascinating here, I think, is how these early experiences, especially those emotional wounds, keep showing up. You see them in our present behaviors, our relationships, even our general well-being.
So we'll be drawing on articles, some psychological research, personal stories too.
Absolutely. We've looked at a range of sources to explore this concept. It's often misunderstood, And the real insight isn't just that your past stays with you. That's kind of obvious.
Right.
It's that your childhood isn't just a bunch of memories. It's more like a living, breathing blueprint.
Oh, blueprint.
Yeah, unconsciously dictating your present-day reactions. A lot of those adulting struggles people talk about, it might just be your inner child kind of waving for help.
So our mission today is to give you a clear, really comprehensive understanding of what inner child work actually is.
Why it's so vital, and maybe some practical ways you can start nurturing that inner part of yourself.
Yeah, we want you to walk away not just informed, but like with a totally new perspective on your own emotional landscape.
Ready to embrace maybe a more fulfilling, more authentic life.
Okay, so we've all heard the term inner child. For some people, it might bring up this image of a literal kid inside them.
Yeah, that happened.
But for our listeners exploring this, let's cut right to it. How do we really define this? It's a psychological metaphor, right?
Yeah.
But it feels so powerful.
Precisely. It is primarily metaphorical, but you're right, it's incredibly powerful. Emotionally, psychologically.
Okay.
It represents the part of our psyche that holds on to, well, everything. The experiences, the emotions, the memories from childhood.
Especially the tough stuff.
Particularly those things that were unprocessed, or needs that went unmet, or feelings that got suppressed.
Right.
Think of it as like the essence of who you were before you hit significant hardship or loss, or even just
the world telling you who you should be.
Exactly, that general cultural conditioning. So this part of us, it harbors that unprocessed pain, maybe neglect, or any harm tied to trauma or dysfunction from those really early formative years.
Okay, so it's like a container for that early stuff.
Yeah, and digging into it a bit deeper, the analysis shows it's not just a fleeting image, or nostalgia.
It's active.
It's very active, a strong, influential part of you. It's like a form of personality that connects our conscious and unconscious minds. It reflects both our inherent strength, that natural curiosity, joy, resilience we're born with, and also any lingering vulnerabilities from different developmental stages. It really is the blueprint shaping how we respond to the world.
That makes sense.
Like one source we looked at put it, the child you once were didn't just vanish and get replaced by some perfectly responsible adult.
Definitely not.
Right. We often act very much like children. Maybe having what feels like a temper tantrum over a parking ticket.
I think we've all been there.
Or falling into this, panicky sense of abandonment when a partner goes on a business trip.
Wow, yeah.
These aren't just random incidents. They're often direct signs from that inner part, signaling an unmet need or an unhealed wound from a time when we just couldn't cope maturely.
That clarifies so much. And this idea, this notion of an inner child, it's not new age fluff, right? It goes back pretty far in psychology.
Oh, absolutely. Its roots are quite deep. You can see origins in Carl Jung's work, for instance. He explored archetypes like the divine child.
Divine child.
Yeah, Jung believed in this collective unconscious, like a universal blueprint of human experience. Archetypes were these innate universal patterns within us all.
Okay.
The divine child archetype symbolized potential, new beginnings, vulnerability, the future. His work kind of laid the groundwork for understanding these timeless parts of our psyche.
So it's not just our childhood, but something deeper.
In Jung's view, yes. Deeply rooted universal patterns. But then, over time, especially with the rise of self-help movements and humanistic psychology...
The 70s and 80s.
Exactly. The idea gained much broader acceptance. It became a more recognized therapeutic concept. Think of people like John Bradshaw.
right? Healing the Shame That Binds You. Huge book.
Huge. He really popularized it. The general idea that evolved is if you actively try to contact, listen to, and nurture this inner part, you can actually address and heal the underlying roots of many adult issues. You can free yourself from patterns that just don't serve you anymore.
So it really speaks to this idea that our personal history, it's always with us. It's influencing the present.
Constantly. And understanding, engaging with that past self, but with compassion, and wisdom, that's really a key to unlocking our present potential.
And shaping our future more intentionally.
Exactly. With more freedom.
Okay, so if our inner child is carrying these old hurts, how do we know it's wounded? Like, what are the real-world signs, things listeners might recognize in their own lives?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just feels like, general adulting is hard.
That's a really important question because the signs can be subtle. They can easily be mistaken for other things like stress or just personality quirks. One source actually suggested it can feel exactly like your inner child throwing a tantrum when you're feeling stuck or frustrated.
Yeah, that resonates.
Like a younger part of you is demanding attention and acting out in ways your adult self finds, perplexing or even embarrassing. Other common signs. Recurring feelings of shame or guilt, especially over things that aren't really your fault. Difficulty trusting people.
That fear of abandonment you mentioned.
Yes, a deep, pervasive fear of abandonment or rejection. It can show up as intense loneliness even when you're surrounded by people. These aren't just abstract feelings. They actively shape your everyday responses, often without you even realizing it.
So it sounds like these childhood experiences aren't just memories tucked away.
Yeah.
They're active forces shaping how we react today.
Exactly.
Can you give us a more vivid picture? Like, how does this actually look or feel when it's playing out day to day, maybe in ways we don't even connect back?
Okay, sure. So when that wounded inner child is kind of secretly calling the shots, you might find yourself struggling hugely with setting boundaries in relationships, constantly saying yes when you really mean no, leading to resentment down the line.
Yeah, people-pleasing.
Classic sign. Or you might engage in self-sabotaging behaviors, things that hold you back from opportunities, like procrastinating on really important tasks or not pursuing your dreams.
Why? Because you don't feel worthy.
Because a part of you, deep down, doesn't feel worthy of success. Or you could experience chronic anxiety or depression that just seems to linger no matter what you do, like it's your default emotional state.
Wow.
For some people, these wounds can even contribute to addictive behaviors or substance abuse, trying to numb the pain or fill that void left by unmet childhood needs.
Right, a coping mechanism that backfires.
Totally. Frequent emotional outbursts that feel way out of proportion to the situation. That's another one. Or just a persistent feeling of being disconnected from yourself, from others.
Feeling kind of numb or spaced out.
Exactly. Even things that seem like big reactions to unmet needs, general childish outbursts, throwing tantrums, maybe constantly complaining that nobody understands you. These can be clear indicators. If you had a tough or maybe loveless childhood, it's not uncommon to feel like there's an angry 5-year-old who trusts no one and is secretly calling the shots inside.
That's a powerful image.
It creates this profound disharmony, right, between your adult self wanting peace and success and your inner child stuck in old patterns of fear or anger. It takes a huge toll on your well-being and your relationships.
And you mentioned hyperarousal too.
Yes. To extrapolate a bit, think about hyperarousal, that state of being constantly on edge, physiologically and psychologically alert.
Like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. Overreacting to even mildly stressful things, feeling perpetually keyed up. It can look like irritability, trouble sleeping, or always needing to escape uncomfortable feelings through distractions.
Like endlessly scrolling or staying busy.
Right. These are often deep emotional patterns rooted in past trauma, where your nervous system learned that being on high alert was necessary for survival because safety felt consistently elusive back then.
So your body remembers, even if your mind doesn't.
Precisely. And an imbalance between pleasant and unpleasant emotions in childhood that can lead to a generally moody or irritable disposition as an adult. Makes it harder to feel consistent joy or peace because your emotional baseline is just tilted towards discomfort.
These aren't just personality quirks then.
Often they're the desperate cries of an unhealed inner child.
So where do these wounds actually come from? Is it always something dramatic, like abuse? Or can it be more subtle, like something that just wasn't there?
That's a crucial distinction, and it's really important to understand the breadth of what can cause a wound. Yes, dramatic events, physical or psychological abuse, a broken family, those definitely cause deep, often obvious wounding.
Right.
But many inner child wounds actually stem from something more pervasive, often less visible, something called relational trauma.
Relational trauma.
This refers to things like chronic misattunement, neglect, or emotional unavailability from caregivers. Maybe they were emotionally immature themselves, or misattuned to your needs, or even narcissistic.
So it's not always about intentional harm.
Often not. It's more about a consistent lack of emotional reciprocity or understanding, a void where that connection and validation should have been. For example, many adults who struggle with complex trauma see PTSD.
That's different from regular PTSD.
Yes, CPTSD often arises from prolonged, repeated relational wounds, not just a single event. Many folks with CPTSD had parents with narcissistic traits or significant emotional limitations.
And that teaches them something unhealthy.
It conditions them, unfortunately, to navigate emotionally non-reciprocal relationships in adulthood. They repeat familiar patterns, like constantly seeking external validation or feeling inherently unworthy of love.
Wow.
There was a participant in one study who recounted how, after running the family farm at just 13 while his dad was away—
13. That's young.
incredibly young— when his father returned, he didn't give me any compliments, but rather criticized me for what I'd done wrong. It was a trauma that I blamed my father for.
So it was the lack of validation, the criticism.
Exactly. A consistent pattern of emotional invalidation. A wound of omission, not necessarily a big dramatic event.
So it's not just what happened, but often what didn't happen, what was consistently missing. That silence, the unmet emotional needs, those carve out these internal voids.
Precisely. Young kids who experience these situations consistently, where their emotional needs aren't met or their reality isn't validated, they just can't understand or process it properly.
They don't have the tools yet.
Exactly. They lack the cognitive and emotional maturity to make sense of why mom or dad might be distant or critical. So what happens?
They internalize it.
They internalize it. It leads to suppressed memories, unexpressed pain that literally, physically lives on in the body.
Wow. How does that show up?
As adult symptoms like chronic muscle tension, digestive issues, and inability to truly relax. Think about the sadness a child feels when parents just aren't engaged in their upbringing. They're left alone with fantasies, misinterpretations, because feelings weren't talked about openly.
They make up stories to fill the gaps.
Right. Imagine a child trying to figure out a parent's anger or sadness without any explanation. They often conclude it's their fault.
Oh, yeah.
One study participant vividly remembered being 4, crying for their mom in the hospital, feeling totally abandoned. And they noted, decades later, they still find separations difficult as an adult.
The feeling sticks.
The original memory might be fuzzy, but the emotional imprint, that fear of abandonment, remains incredibly potent.
And you said this gets magnified if the parents struggled with their own emotions.
Absolutely. If a parent is constantly overwhelmed, irritable, emotionally volatile, they inadvertently teach their child that the world is emotionally unsafe.
Or that expressing big feelings is dangerous.
Exactly. Our sources really highlight that kids are happiest, most successful, when they're consistently listened to, understood, taken seriously.
Basic validation.
Basic validation. If those emotional needs aren't validated, if feelings get dismissed, don't be silly, shamed, big boys don't cry, or just ignored, it can lead to uncontrolled emotional responses in the child. It hinders their healthy development, sets the stage for future struggles with emotional balance, self-worth. They never learn to self-regulate because they didn't have a secure model for it.
So the adult self is left trying to handle emotional storms with, like, a child's toolkit.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so we've identified the inner child, its wounds. Now the big so what? It sounds like this ripple effect goes way beyond just our intimate relationships. How do these unhealed wounds really impact our adult lives? Mental health, sure, but even our capacity for success, for happiness in a broader sense. Like, how might an unhealed inner child subtly sabotage someone's career or their sense of purpose?
That's a critical question because the ripples are extensive. They can touch nearly every part of life. For many, yes, unresolved childhood issues lead directly to dysfunctional patterns in relationships.
We covered that a bit.
Right. You might unconsciously seek the parenting you missed, leading to disappointment, rejection, codependent dynamics where you rely too much on others for your emotional okayness.
Right, looking for someone else to fill that gap.
Exactly. Or there's that deep fear of intimacy causing you to run from good relationships or sabotage them because deep down, A part of you believes closeness inevitably leads to pain.
Because that was the early experience.
Precisely. As one expert put it, hurt people find other hurt people. You end up perpetuating cycles that mirror past traumas instead of breaking free. You might even be drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable or critical because that pattern feels familiar, even if it's painful.
That's rough.
It really is. There's a powerful example in Gloria Zhang. She's a relationship coach. She initially dismissed inner child work as new age bullshit.
Okay.
But she was struggling. Chronic insomnia, OCD, burnout, problems in intimate relationships, all driven by this intense need to achieve and impress.
Trying to prove herself.
Totally. She realized that reconnecting with her inner child was the last missing piece. Her achievement drive wasn't about passion. It was an unconscious attempt to prove her value, to finally feel enough, because she never felt validated as a kid.
Wow. So it was all fueled by that childhood wound.
Classic manifestation. Seeking external validation she didn't get back then. Once she addressed that core wound, her whole motivation shifted. It went from having to prove herself to simply wanting to enjoy life.
So her career became about joy, not just proving her worth.
Exactly, a fundamental shift.
That's a stark illustration of how a subconscious drive, rooted way back, can completely dictate our adult motivations. So, okay, beyond relationships and career, what about our mental and emotional well-being, the internal landscape?
Absolutely. On that mental and emotional level, an unhealed inner child often manifests as chronic anxiety, persistent depression, that pervasive low self-esteem we talked about. It makes personal and social connections incredibly challenging.
It just drains you.
Completely. These wounds are significantly linked to conditions like PTSD and clinical depression in adulthood. They create debilitating symptoms that sap energy and joy. You might also develop those maladaptive coping mechanisms.
Like avoidance.
Yeah, avoidance behaviors, constantly distracting yourself with social media, work, being busy just to avoid feeling things, or substance abuse, trying to manage the pain. But these only complicate well-being and prevent real healing.
Right, they're Band-Aids.
Exactly. The inner child literally carries these unresolved emotions, the sadness, the anger, the fear. They influence how you see yourself, how you interact with the world. They impact your mindset, your personality, even your morality.
Wow, so morality.
Well, maybe developing rigid rules or harsh judgments about yourself or others as a way to feel in control, stemming from a childhood where things felt chaotic or unsafe.
Ah, okay.
One source highlights that irritability, anger, and shouting, and easy-to-break social relations can be direct impacts. Emotional dysregulation just makes it hard to maintain stable connections. Ultimately, it's about being held back. Held back from making necessary changes in your adult life if your inner child lived with instability or danger. If it learned that safety meant staying small, unseen, constantly vigilant.
So there's this internal conflict. You want to grow, but you're scared.
Exactly. That yearning for growth clashes with the fear of vulnerability, and it stops you from stepping into your full adult potential.
This all sounds quite heavy, and I imagine for many listeners it might feel overwhelming to even think about confronting this stuff.
It can feel daunting, absolutely.
But the good news, right, is there's a path forward. What exactly is inner child work, and why is it considered so transformative?
You're right. It can feel heavy, but the potential for profound positive change is just immense. Fundamentally, inner child work is a therapeutic approach. It's focused on connecting with and healing that child part within you.
Okay.
The main goal is to address those emotional wounds formed way back in childhood that are still affecting your adult behavior, your emotional responses today.
So it's about healing and integrating.
Exactly. Healing those wounds and integrating your inner child into your adult self. The ultimate aim is to unleash your true potential, freeing yourself from limiting beliefs and old patterns.
Like that Tony Robbins quote.
Yeah, he famously put it in a documentary, "Heal the boy and the man will appear." It perfectly captures the essence. By tending to those foundational hurts, the adult self can finally emerge, unburdened and powerful.
So where does the power in this work really come from?
A core power, I think, lies in fostering self-compassion. As adults, we can be incredibly hard on ourselves, right?
Definitely, that inner critic.
Exactly. We get stuck in cycles of self-judgment, criticism, which just hinders healing. When you tell yourself, oh, why can't I just get over this? You're often just berating a part of yourself stuck in a childhood wound.
Right.
But if you view your unresolved trauma or repressed emotions not as some personal failing, but as belonging to a separate entity, your inner child.
You create some distance.
Yes. It suddenly becomes easier to show yourself empathy, kindness, understanding. That reframing is a total game changer.
So empathy accelerates healing.
Absolutely. Because it allows you to step into this dual role. You're both the grown-up, providing unconditional love and support, and the child receiving that desperately needed care.
You become your own loving parent.
Exactly. Providing the consistent self-love, self-compassion, self-support you might have missed or never received early on. It's like finally tending to that scared, hurt child inside you instead of punishing them for their pain.
That reframing, shifting from self-criticism to self-compassion, really does sound like a game changer. So what are the tangible, real-world benefits? If someone embarks on this journey, what kind of transformation can they realistically hope for?
The benefits are profound, truly multifaceted. They can touch every corner of your life. Firstly, you can expect a significant increase in self-awareness.
Understanding the why.
Exactly. Understanding those deep-seated patterns, beliefs shaping your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, gaining clarity on why you react certain ways, what triggers those responses. This introspection is foundational for all personal growth.
Sets the stage.
Totally. You'll also see enhanced self-esteem and confidence. As you address those core wounds, you start building a healthier, more authentic sense of self-worth based on your inherent value, not just external validation.
Which leads to better relationships.
Inevitably, healthier relationships. By understanding and resolving those underlying issues that used to cause conflict or unhealthy dynamics, you foster more balanced, secure, nourishing bonds. You move away from codependency or avoidance.
And resilience.
Crucially, yes. Greater resilience and adaptability. You get equipped with the emotional strength and flexibility to navigate life's challenges more effectively. Instead of being totally derailed by them, you bounce back better.
That sounds huge. Are there other things people notice?
Yeah, beyond those core benefits, people often experience improved emotional regulation and maturity.
Meaning fewer meltdowns.
Pretty much. Less intense, out-of-control reactions, a greater ability to respond thoughtfully rather than just react impulsively. There's often a profound return to a sense of wholeness, authenticity, feeling more genuinely yourself, less like you're playing a role.
And reclaiming some joy.
Definitely. People frequently report a return of vitality, a childlike sense of wonder. Reclaiming lost positive traits like spontaneous creativity, pure joyfulness, a natural capacity for awe in simple things.
Like Gloria Zhang found.
Exactly. Moving from that place of having to prove myself to simply wanting to enjoy life. Imagine that shift from a life driven by fear and obligation to one fueled by genuine enjoyment and purpose.
That promise of transformation sounds incredibly hopeful. But for someone who might still feel skeptical, what's one of the most surprising changes you've seen in people who commit to this? And, importantly, how do we actually do this work? What are some practical steps, maybe therapeutic techniques, to connect with and nurture that inner child tangibly?
It's true. The transformation can be really profound. One of the most surprising things I've seen is often just the sheer lightness people report afterward.
Lightness?
Yeah, like a lifelong burden has been lifted, leading to this capacity for simple joy they didn't know they had. As for how to do it, thankfully there are many accessible pathways, both therapeutic and self-help. Okay. Inner child work is what we call an eclectic approach. It's integrated into various therapies because the idea of parts or modes of the self is widely accepted now.
Like CBT?
Exactly. You'll find it within cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, schema therapy, internal family systems, IFS, lots of modalities. In CBT, for instance, there's something called a twin mode protocol.
Twin mode.
Yeah, it helps patients distinguish between their child mode when they're triggered and react dysfunctionally, maybe with anger or withdrawal, and their adult mode when they're calm, rational, and control.
And the therapy focuses on bridging those.
Precisely. It focuses on getting the patient's adult self to nurture and set healthy boundaries for that child part, teaching the adult to be the loving, firm parent the child part never had internally.
That integration into existing therapies makes a lot of sense. It provides a structure. Can you give a more detailed, concrete example? How might that look in a real therapy session?
Certainly. Let's consider Anne, an educator. She came to therapy feeling utterly panicky about speaking in staff meetings. Described herself as overly agreeable, always apologizing, no confidence. She'd physically tense up just thinking about it.
Okay, sounds familiar for many.
Right. Her therapist helped her externalize that overwhelming panic. Visualize it as a child part, maybe a 7 or 8-year-old girl feeling not good enough, inherently stupid in front of the grown-ups.
Seeing it as separate?
Exactly. And Anne felt immense sympathy for this child part. She realized this little girl was just trying to protect her from judgment. The therapist encouraged Anne to apologize to her for not being there in the past, for pushing her down, ignoring her fear.
Wow.
And then promised to be there with her at the next meeting, even allowing her not to speak up if she didn't want to. That was a radical act of self-compassion for Anne.
Taking the pressure off.
Completely. This process helped Anne's adult self take charge, shifting from feeling overwhelmed by panic to having compassionate understanding and proactive care for that younger part. Gradually, as the inner child felt seen and protected,
Her confidence grew.
her confidence started returning. It freed her from that core belief of being worthless and allowed her adult voice to finally emerge.
That's a powerful, really concrete example.
Yeah.
What about things people can try on their own, outside of formal therapy? Practical tips for self-connection.
Great question. For self-help, journaling is hugely valuable. It's accessible, fits into busy schedules, and provides a safe space for unfiltered expression.
Just writing things down.
Yeah. You can use specific prompts, maybe prompts for gratitude, self-esteem, self-love. For instance, in a self-love journal, you might ask, what do I admire about myself? What one thing will I forgive myself for this week?
Or maybe, what does my inner child need to hear from me right now?
Exactly. That's a great one. The act of writing helps externalize and process emotions that might otherwise stay submerged.
Makes sense. What else?
Mindfulness and meditation are also key. They teach you to sit with difficult emotions, observe your thoughts without judgment, be present with your inner experience instead of running from it.
Just being with what is.
Right. You can also use visualization techniques. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, imagine a younger version of yourself. Focus on sounds, feelings, even smells from a memory. Then ask what your inner child wants to say to your adult self, or what it needs from you now.
Talking to that part directly.
Yes, direct communication.
No.
Like writing letters to your inner child, asking what they feel, what they need. It can be incredibly transformative. Some people even find that their inner child writes back through spontaneous insights or feelings that pop up.
So it sounds like it's really about giving ourselves the care and attention we might not have gotten as kids. Are there ways to recapture that childlike joy and play that don't involve like expensive retreats or anything complicated?
Absolutely. And importantly, you don't need to spend money to recapture that playfulness or wonder. Gloria Zhang, the coach we mentioned, suggests really simple, free things.
Like what?
Like lying in your backyard watching clouds, or even just on the floor of your house like you might have done as a kid, going for walks with no goal, just for the joy of moving and observing, singing while doing chores, coloring.
Things we forget how to do as adults.
Totally. We get burdened by the need for productivity, achievement. The core idea is just giving yourself permission to experience joy, which we're naturally capable of.
Permission is key. And you mentioned reparenting.
Yes, reparenting is a critical, practical practice. It means consciously taking care of yourself the way you would a cherished child.
Not being irresponsible, though.
No, not at all. It's about providing consistent, loving care you might have lacked, ensuring basic needs are met: good sleep, eating well, letting yourself rest when tired, even if your inner critic yells at you to keep pushing.
Okay.
It also means setting internal boundaries, deciding what behavior is acceptable or not for you. Like maybe not looking at your phone first thing if it makes you anxious, not overcommitting yourself socially.
Being your own loving, responsible parent.
Exactly. Providing that consistent care and emotional validation you might have missed. It often turns out, as one person reflected, it doesn't take much to make me happy. I just wasn't doing those things before.
Wow. It's a shift to realizing your well-being is your own responsibility.
And that you have the power to provide what you need. It's profound.
So it sounds like this isn't really a one-and-done process, is it? Not a simple fix, but more of an ongoing journey throughout our lives. Does the inner child keep influencing us as we age, even into older adulthood?
Absolutely. It's definitely not one and done. The inner child is present at all ages, continues to influence us. Even into older adulthood. One study we looked at focused on folks aged 70 to 91.
Really, 70 to 91.
Yeah. These early childhood experiences profoundly shape our health, our well-being, our adaptation across the entire lifespan. And what's really interesting is the inner child can even be a powerful source for development later on.
How so?
helping to turn something bad or challenging from the past into something good, something constructive now. It resonates with the idea that we're kind of all ages at the same time, integrating all our experiences. One study highlighted what they called useful life lessons gained from childhood experiences, even the difficult ones. These became a profound foundation for later life.
What kind of lessons?
Well, first, the importance of sharing relationships. Reliable bonds with parents, siblings, friends that instilled confidence and trust, showing the power of secure attachment.
Okay.
Second, playing to heal. This emphasizes fostering imagination, creativity, all throughout life. Reinforcing that play is vital for emotional well-being, problem solving, not just for kids.
Still important as adults?
Crucial. Third, being strong or frail. This speaks to learning resilience from tough times, turning negatives into positives, like maybe a childhood fear of hospitals led to a parent providing better, more empathetic explanations for their own kids facing medical stuff.
Transforming their own fear into compassion.
Exactly. Transforming past fear into a strength for the next generation. And finally, supporting the next generation. Using your own childhood experiences, good and bad, as an invaluable asset in parenting or caring for others.
Like prioritizing family time if yours was lacking.
Precisely. Or teaching kids it's okay to make mistakes, based on your own struggles with perfectionism. So the wisdom from childhood, even the tough parts, becomes this guiding force for our future selves and even future generations.
That's a powerful thought. That our childhoods, even the challenging bits, can become a source of strength and guidance, not just for us, but for those we nurture. So what does real progress on this lifelong journey look like? How do we know we're moving forward? Especially if it sometimes feels like, as you said, opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, that's fair. Progress is continuous, but there are definitely clear, tangible signs you're moving in the right direction. You'll notice enhanced self-worth and self-esteem, feeling more valuable, confident, less reliant on external validation.
Feeling better inside.
Right. You'll also experience heightened emotional intelligence, a greater ability to understand, manage, navigate complex emotions, your own and others, with more grace.
Healthier relationships, too.
A big indicator, yes. Healthier, more balanced relationships, forming more secure, fulfilling bonds, free from those old patterns of codependency or avoidance. You'll get better at setting and enforcing healthy boundaries.
Saying no without guilt.
Communicating your needs clearly, respectfully, without fear or guilt, huge. Emotional resilience increases too. You become better equipped to cope with stress, adversity without getting overwhelmed. You bounce back quicker.
And like Gloria Zhang, maybe less driven by proving yourself.
Exactly. Like she noted, after focusing on her inner child, that intense drive to succeed sort of fell away. She found herself just wanting to enjoy life, feeling more like a child now than I did at 10.
Not immature, but free.
Free. Reclaiming that spontaneous joy and freedom that got lost.
Okay. But you acknowledged it can feel worse before it gets better sometimes.
Absolutely. It's not always linear. You might feel overwhelming sadness, anger, grief as these long-buried emotions surface when you start this work. It can feel like opening Pandora's box.
But sticking with it leads somewhere better.
Enduring that process leads to a state where you're truly able to honor and take care of your own needs, becoming a fully grown-up adult, unburdened by past wounds, able to live with more clarity, purpose, passion.
And support is key.
Building a strong support network, therapy, support groups, healthier relationships is absolutely vital for navigating this ongoing healing and ensuring long-term well-being. It's a journey towards self-liberation, and you don't have to do it alone.
Okay, expert speaker, shifting gears slightly. While this concept of the inner child resonates deeply with so many people who find it helpful, there's often skepticism, right? Especially around psychological theories that aren't purely clinical or easily measured. What does the actual research say about inner child work? Is it just a metaphor, or is there some empirical backing?
That's a really important question to address because you're right, the concept is largely metaphorical. It's not a literal, physically measurable construct like, say, a neuron.
Right.
However, and this is key, the therapeutic approaches that explicitly incorporate the inner child concept or similar parts work frameworks.
Like IFS or Schema Therapy you mentioned.
Exactly. Those approaches do show promising outcomes in research. For example, clinical trials have indicated statistically and clinically significant reductions in PTSD symptoms and depressive symptoms in adults with histories of childhood trauma who engaged in these therapies.
So measurable improvements.
Measurable improvements in mental health outcomes. Reparenting-based interventions, which are a core component of inner child work, have also shown statistically significant improvements in symptoms of chronic depression and anxiety. These are tangible results.
Okay. And what about other theories that support it indirectly?
Well, attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby, provides a crucial, though indirect, empirical foundation.
How does that connect?
Bowlby's model suggested that our early attachment experiences with caregivers create these internal working models. Basically, unconscious templates for how we view ourselves, others, and relationships.
Like the blueprint idea again.
Exactly. These models profoundly influence our emotional regulation and relationship patterns throughout life. This framework strongly resonates with the inner child concept because it posits that unmet childhood needs and insecure attachments continue to affect our adult functioning. That's precisely what inner child work aims to address.
Makes sense.
Plus, qualitative and clinical studies have also confirmed that inner child interventions can improve things like emotional intelligence, psychological adjustment, overall mental health outcomes. That study with older adults, for instance, found recalling childhood events and engaging with their inner child was an essential strategy for their holistic health care.
And help them be better parents or grandparents.
Showing how even negative experiences could inform positive choices for the next generation. So yeah, while the inner child itself is a metaphor, the process of addressing early emotional wounds using these frameworks yields profound real-world results.
Okay, so despite the metaphorical nature, it works in practice and therapy. That's a crucial distinction. But what are the criticisms? From a more hard-nosed scientific standpoint, what's the other side of that coin?
The main criticisms really center on that scientific validity point. Critics argue that because the inner child is framed metaphorically, not operationalized in directly measurable terms, it lacks what's called falsifiability.
Falsifiability.
Yeah, it's a key criterion for a scientific theory. It means it's difficult, maybe impossible, to design an experiment that could definitively disprove its existence. That makes it hard to classify as a purely empirical construct, like a biological process would be.
Got it. Too slippery to pin down scientifically.
Kind of. And furthermore, many of the supporting studies rely heavily on qualitative data interviews, case studies, or self-report measures.
Which can be subjective.
Exactly. While valuable for understanding lived experience, they can be influenced by cognitive biases. They're often based on smaller sample sizes too, which naturally limits how much you can generalize the findings to everyone.
So the research tests the therapies that use the idea, not the idea itself.
Often, yes. The research assesses the outcomes of therapeutic practices that reference the inner child or involve similar parts work, rather than directly testing the inner child as an independent psychological construct.
Okay.
However, it's worth noting, its renewed attention on platforms like TikTok, its continued embrace by experienced psychotherapists that highlights its growing mainstream acceptance.
People find it useful.
It underscores its perceived utility and effectiveness in helping people recover joy, autonomy, a sense of wholeness. This tension between academic rigor and practical efficacy. We see that often in evolving fields like psychology, where human experience sometimes outpaces strict measurement.
Its value might lie more in its practical application for healing.
Exactly. Its utility as a framework seems undeniable for many.
Wow. Okay, as we bring this deep dive to a close, what really stands out to me is just how interconnected all these pieces are. From defining the inner child to recognizing its wounds, exploring the roots, and then finding these paths to healing, it's far more complex than it might seem at first glance. A really profound aspect of who we are, holding immense potential for growth, for liberation.
Indeed. I think it really highlights that while we absolutely cannot control what happened in our past,
Right.
we certainly do have the power to deal with the pain that arises from a wounded inner child now.
Taking responsibility for our healing.
Yes, it's about giving yourself permission to revisit those pain points.
Yeah.
Not to get stuck there, not to dwell, but to acknowledge them, understand their impact, maybe receive guidance, and actively move towards what one source called an I am mindset. A mindset that liberates you from past limitations and empowers you to be an overcomer, fully present and capable in your adult life today.
So for you, our listener, maybe here's a final thought to mull over as we wrap up. What simple, childlike joy, or maybe genuine desire, might you be unconsciously denying yourself today because of an old, unhealed wound? What potential could truly be unlocked if you just gave yourself permission to experience it? Even for a few minutes, what small step could you take this week just to acknowledge or connect with or nurture that inner part of you? And then just observe how your adult self responds.
And maybe ask, What useful life lesson is your inner child waiting to impart to you right now, something that could help you move forward?
Yeah.
This journey, it definitely requires dedication, patience, consistent self-care. It's not always easy.
No.
But as we've explored today, the rewards of reparenting your inner child, they really are immense. Increased self-worth, heightened emotional intelligence, healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
And that profound freedom.
That profound freedom to embrace a more authentic, joyful, and purposeful life.